Okay, listen to me. We need a hard reset. 2025 for me was meant to be a year of saving money, and in terms of like unnecessary spending, I crushed it. I killed it. And one of the places I wanted to save money last year was in my kitchen. I still feel like I'm spending way too much money on food. Like after our mortgage, food is the biggest part of our budget, and that has to change. I don't know about you, but for me, because food is essential, it often is the thing that I'm like, yeah, just buy it, spend whatever is necessary on it. I still try to stay within the number line on our budget, but it still feels like, wow, there has to be a way to make that cheaper. So we're gonna do that in this video, and I wanna look at it as a hard reset. My goal is not to eat out at all for the rest of January, and maybe even for February too. And I feel like as I look at the state of the world, everybody is in the mode of saving money and giving less money to other people, big corporations, etc. So you're gonna come with me on this journey, and I have like 4 main goals. And one of the ways I wanna make cooking in my kitchen easier and more just natural to me is to look at it as a form of creativity. I seem to be really good at focusing in on things that make me feel creative and fulfilled. I wanna look at cooking like that in 2026. I want to eat better. I am cutting out soda. I am adding more fiber and more protein to my diet this year. That's like my big focus, and incorporating more ingredients that last longer and are more affordable. So step 1 is cleaning out my pantry. My relationship with cooking has been a little strained over the last decade of my life because I used to cook every single meal when I was in college. And then I moved to California for my AmeriCorps service term, and I was renting a room in which did not include the kitchen. Like I wasn't allowed to use the kitchen. I wasn't allowed to cook. So it was a really complicated time for me in like terms of figuring out what to eat. And then I moved back to Austin, and I lived in a garage apartment that did not have a kitchen. After we moved out of our garage apartment, I was already establishing bad habits around eating out. And then by the time we moved to our first home, I was in like hyper productivity mode. I rarely ate in general, let alone was I like cooking for myself. I just wasn't. So now I'm really trying to rewire my brain in terms of what eating for me looks like. And genuinely, yes, this video is focused on resetting myself, but the whole year is going to be focused on my health. Okay, honestly, I think because of our weekends that we would take around once a month last year to clean out the pantry, it doesn't look too crazy in there. The thing that is actually kind of difficult is what's going bad on the bar cart, which is where all of our fresh produce is, and the way that my freezer is overflowing, and there are a few things in the fridge that I want to work through too. If you haven't heard of Project Pantry, honestly, no worries. I don't know exactly what the rules are, but I have heard of Project Pan, and I feel like it's probably the same thing, where you go through the stuff you have and you build meals around that, and you try to use up whatever you have in a certain category before you go out and buy more. So specifically for me, if I'm looking at the cans in my pantry and wanting to use those up before I go buy anything else canned, I have like 5 cans, big cans of tomatoes. And to me, it's not necessarily that the tomatoes are gonna go bad soon, but it's more that there just won't be room in my pantry if I just keep letting those cans of tomatoes sit there forever and ever, amen. So instead, I'm just gonna do what I bought them to do, which is make tomato sauce, and I will freeze it so that it's ready on hand, because I don't know about you, something about once my frontal lobe finished developing, I hate canned sauce from the store. I like to make my own. Something else we have a ton of in our pantry is oats. That's because we buy them in bulk, and Madison eats them every single day. And again, not that I'm worried about them going bad, but I do want to try to incorporate them into my diet because they are so nutritious and they are so cheap. So we're gonna try to make something with those in this video too. Now, one thing I do need to work through in the pantry, there's just like a consistent problem, a never-ending problem, are the amount of sauces I have. I like to keep parts of our pantry dedicated to certain things, and at this point, I can't buy a single new sauce because I have no room to put it on the shelf in there. So this week, we're gonna try to work through some of those sauces by making some Asian-inspired dishes, some tofu dishes. I think that will help me work through some of those things in there. I also have some leftover bell peppers from something that I hosted over the weekend, and I also have a ton of squeezed lemons, again, from something that I hosted over the weekend. I'll tell you some ways that I reduced waste or saved money there too, if you want to hear about that. Oh, and there's a giant bag of mixed vegetables in my freezer that is taking up like literally a quarter of my freezer. I have to work through those. We have to incorporate them into something so that I can get that bag out of my freezer and be allowed to buy literally anything else to put in there. A service I recently started using that I'm hoping will help me cook from home more is the sponsor of today's video, which is Wild Grain. Wild Grain is the first bake from frozen subscription box that offers sourdough bread, artisanal pastries, and one of my favorite things, fresh pasta. Everything goes straight from the freezer into the oven, no thawing, and it's ready in 25 minutes or less. Wild Grain uses real sourdough and a slow fermentation process that takes over 20 hours. So they're doing the work for me and making it easier for me to cook in my kitchen, I think. And the quality is just much better because most supermarket loaves have only been fermented for like 20 minutes. And because you can bake them from frozen, they don't use any preservatives, just simple ingredients. And now I can have something that feels like bakery level good in my own home without overthinking it. I'm gonna bake this loaf right now, but over the weekend I hosted a vision board party with my friends and I baked their giant chocolate chip cookies, which are vegan by the way, and they were so like unbelievably good. Dare I say it, maybe the best chocolate chip cookie I've ever had. And I really think that's cool about their service, that they offer a vegan box, they also offer a gluten-free box and their protein boxes. And for every box ordered, Wild Grain donates 2 meals to food insecure nonprofits with no extra cost to you. I'm really looking forward to incorporating them into my routine in 2026 because they've already been so great. So if you want to try them for yourself, you can use the link in my description and code ShelbyOrm to get $30 off your first box plus free croissants for life. Trust me, you're gonna want to try this. Huge shout out to Wild Grain for helping me get on track with my New Year's goals. Let me tell you some of the other ways that I actually implemented saving money and reducing food waste into my vision board night with my friends. I was talking recently in a video about how hosting like runs in my blood and how I host so much. Oh, bird clock. It's the woodpecker. So first of all, because 2025 was a money saving year for me and because 2026 I plan to be too, so that's how I picked the theme for this one, so that I could basically use the food that I would already have and make it into a good theme. And so I picked the theme to be blooming into 2026. Flowers are an easy motif to implement. So I did things like just arrange the vegetable tray around hummus to look like flowers. I had 2 little jam jars that I wanted to use up, so I decided to whip together like 4 ingredient cookies and then thumb press kind of the shape of a flower into the cookies and put the jam into them. So again, flower motif, super easy, using up stuff in my kitchen. I asked my neighbor if she would help me make focaccia, and then we just, again, arrange vegetables in the layout of flowers. That's why I have the leftover peppers and the lemons that hopefully I will have time to get to do something with them in this video. But first, it's lunchtime. All right, I've mentioned my carrot salad a few times, and since I mentioned that recently, I've gotten a few requests to share my recipe. Full disclaimer, nothing I cook is my recipe. I have like 1 recipe that I've made from scratch, maybe 2, and the rest I get from people all over the internet. I'll try to link everything below where I got the recipes from. I shared in a recent video that I've been trying to swap out produce that is normally in my routine for produce that lasts longer. For instance, I really like those little cucumbers. They're so crispy and they're so good. I'm not talking about the big ones, the regular ones, the little ones. So I would make a salad with them every week, but I could never get through all of the ones that I would buy before they would go bad. Like they only last in my house maybe 48 hours before they start being an icky texture that I don't want. So I switched over to carrots, and I really like this recipe, and carrots last forever. And you know what's really nice is when I need carrots in a recipe to make like a mirepoix or something like that, I always have carrots on hand now, and it's so much better than cucumbers. Plus the salad is really good. So I super encourage that you try it. It's one of my favorite things I make. I'm just gonna have this salad with some dumplings that my best friend made because she was a foreign exchange student in China, so she knows what's up. And I've had these in my fridge and I still have some in my freezer since we made those. I only have like maybe a tablespoon of this chili crisp left, so I am just gonna make my sauce for the dumplings in the jar. Pro tip to use up like every bit of stuff that you have. So I'm just gonna add some vinegar to it. I'm gonna add just like the tiniest bit of oil, just a little bit. The teeniest bit of soy sauce. Ooh. And this recipe comes from my best friend too, okay? So don't judge me. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just doing what she tells me. A pinch of sugar. Genuinely, if you want to try one of my favorite things in the kitchen, try this carrot ribbon salad. I eat it almost every week. I will say usually the carrots are not as big as the ones I use this week. Usually I can use 3 to 4 carrots. I was only able to use 2. I ate that entire bowl of carrots. Yeah, I did. And then I ribboned the other ones that I already peeled, and I'm just gonna make a sauce for them tomorrow so that I don't have to peel them all over again. They'll already be peeled. And when I do that, I have these little like nubs left after I make my ribbons. So I'm just gonna cut these up and throw them into my dinner tonight. I have these little booties left, and we compost in our house in a few different ways. We have free curbside composting, which is incredible, but we usually put things in there that are like, that we wouldn't want to put in our mill, which makes like the best compost for our bed so that the nutrients go back to the food that we then regrow. The other way I can compost, technically, at my house is with my chickens, but they are picky little bitches. They don't eat like anything. Watch, let's see if they'll eat these carrots. Here, try this. Okay, she tried it. This is new girl, Speckle. See? She's like, no, actually, I don't think I want that. Yeah. Turds. Oh, they're trying it again. Trying it again. No. Walking away from it. Yeah, people always tell me, you don't need to compost that. Your chickens will eat it. And I'm like, you don't know my chickens. My chickens from the sanctuary, my secondhand chickens that are little divas and won't eat anything I give them. I'm gonna put you on to one of the best plant-based recipes I have ever tried, and it is Wicked Kitchen's vegan lasagna. It is so good, but the way that they make their tomato sauce specifically has this like lemon herb paste that they put into the sauce, and I will just make that sauce and freeze it and keep it in my fridge so that I have some on hand whenever we want any sort of red sauce. That is what I will use. I also every winter will make their lasagna because it is so good. It takes me a really long time, so I'm not doing that in this video. We're trying to use up what I already have in this video, so we're not gonna make lasagna, but if you are looking for a good plant-based lasagna recipe, it is so good. I'll link it in the description. But for the purposes of this video, we're just trying to get some of those big tomato cans out of the pantry and prep them so that when I need the red sauce, it's ready to go. You basically blend it up in the blender and then put it back on the stove. The sauce has to simmer for an hour, even up to 2 hours. So I won't be eating that tonight. It's just like prep to freeze some of it and to eat it throughout the week. I have to work on something else that's taking up so much room in my freezer, okay? Don't judge me. I went through a kick of realizing I could just add rice, spices, and frozen vegetables to my Instant Pot and make like Spanish rice that I really like. It was so easy, and I made it so many times. So then when we made one of our last trips to Costco, I decided to invest in this Mondo bag of mixed vegetables. And it's been months of this being in my freezer, and like, it's not gonna go bad. It might get freezer burnt, which could be a whole other issue that I would like to avoid if I can, but it's just taking up so much room in there. So I would like to consciously try to use it more. So tonight I'm going to use some of the wild grain pasta. I think I have cavatappi? How do you say this word? Does anybody know? Cavatappi. So we're gonna make something with this, and hope it turns out good. Pasta is such a staple in our house because it's just so easy usually to throw things together, and it really never comes out bad, right? For this, I literally just did garlic, butter, red pepper, vegetables, and it's gonna be good. I would usually take like something from the frozen section, like a plant-based protein, and throw it in there, but I want to experiment with making my own because that stuff adds up fast from the grocery store. So we're skipping that today. I have all these lemons. I squeezed them for the drink I made for vision board night, and I saved them because we're gonna do something with them tomorrow. My neighbor is really into, I don't know what you call it, not even mixology. She's just really into like drinks. But she told me I can basically soak the lemons in sugar and make like a really cool mix for when I make drinks. And I make mocktails a lot because I have a custom drink every time I host anything at my house, so I'm gonna use these for that. But in the meantime, I'm using these lemons that have already been squeezed for the zest that is left on them because I forgot to zest them in the midst of trying to prepare for the party. Everything could always use more red pepper and maybe more parsley. After I share this oat pancake recipe with you, you're gonna wanna make them, but let me warn you, you need fizzy water. I'm really lucky that I have one of those machines at home, so I make mine myself. Don't have to go out and buy it when I need it last minute, so be prepared for that. But number two, You have to make the batter the night before. I woke up the morning I wanted them and was going to make them, and then got to the part of the recipe that said, okay, now let's sit for 12 hours. And I was like, right. So we tried again the next morning, let them sit overnight, took myself on a nice little walk, and then took my shower, and then it was time to make the pancakes. Good morning. It is time to make these pancakes. I'm gonna fizz up the water one more time just because I made it last night. I don't technically need to measure 3/4 of a cup, but I don't want to mess it up. The recipe calls for cinnamon butter like you're supposed to make it, but I don't want to. So I'm gonna add chocolate chips. Spread the butter. I use miyokos butter, just so you know. It's been my favorite for a very, very long time. Okay, here we go. Let's go. If when I sit down to eat these, they're good, my plan is to add more fiber and more protein to them long term, to have them as like an everyday breakfast, as like one cake that would be able to have protein powder in it, maybe more oats, and like just play with the ratio. This is just, my goal is to make an oat pancake essentially. Here we go. I'm gonna try to eat it with no syrup. Like they have chocolate chips in them. Should be good, right? Stop. Like, it's the first bite, exactly what I wanted. You want to come try these? Is anyone else a crisscross girly? No matter what chair I'm in, this is something. This does not need syrup. It's so good. I definitely could add more oats, and I definitely am going to play with this recipe and make it my own so that it makes sense for like my breakfast. This is also the tablecloth I thrifted for vision board night. My goal with dinner this night was to use sauces, like as many of the sauces that I could from my overflowing sauce cabinet, get them out, make them into something. And I'm gonna try to make this dish actually every Tuesday from now on until I use up some of those sauces. I just want to focus on what I have, because yes, it's not necessarily that those sauces are gonna go bad, but there's no more room in my pantry, so I should just be using what I have and prioritizing it. And making this tofu Asian style dish was a good way to do that. Also to use up the peppers that I have so that I don't forget about them and they go bad. Because I don't know about you, but like if I buy something for one purpose and then there's some parts of it left over and I don't consciously think, okay, now how do I incorporate this into something? It can go bad. It just, life gets busy, things happen. So I'm consciously being like, I bought these peppers for the party, I have a few left over, how can I use them up? Also, pro tip, ripping apart your tofu like this makes for a really easy way to have a different texture with your tofu that I personally really like. I really like when things have like a lot of peanuts, a lot of cashews, pretty much any nut that it calls for. I'll double it. I was gonna make a really bad joke about all nut lovers rise, and then how like we don't love nuts in this house because obviously we're a 2-woman household, but I'm telling you I was gonna make that joke and I didn't do it because it sounded just too cheesy. But this recipe literally called for only a 1/4 cup of cashews, and I was like, excuse me, I think I almost a cup. I just really prefer it that way. So if you haven't heard me constantly yap about it, I am the president of my neighborhood association, and my neighbor, who has become one of my best friends, is the vice president. We're having like a just an us meeting tonight to talk about like our goals for the year, and you know, if you know me, I love goal setting. So I told her to get here at 6, and then around 5 I was like, oh, I'm like way ahead of schedule, she can come at 5:30. And then I remembered that I forgot to start the rice, so she's gonna get here and the food's not gonna be ready. That's my bad, but that's fine, it's fine. Okay, this dish is actually really typical for something that we would make on like a regular basis. I've been trying to make a lot more sheet pan meals because they're just so easy, but often they're really good. And I'm a pretty simple eater. Like I just want rice, tofu, and a veggie. That is my regular rotation. But I tried some different sauce variations today in order to use up all those freaking sauces in my pantry. If you want to try this recipe, like I said, I'm going to link it below. The only things I changed were like I quadrupled the nuts, doubled the ginger, and added red chili flakes, but I didn't think you needed to be there for like our top secret neighborhood meeting, so I skipped past all that. Just know everybody thoroughly enjoyed that recipe, and I will be making it again probably next Tuesday. One of my friends is getting married this year, and she's trying to use just dried flowers for all of her bouquets, and she's trying to round up everybody's like flowers they're getting rid of to use so that it can be eco-friendly and, you know, secondhand and all that good stuff. So I hung up those carnations for the vision board night on my lights just for vibes, And then it turned out that was kind of the perfect thing she needs for the flowers to dry out. So I let her take that home, and I told her I would string up the rest. And so I'm gonna do that so that I can give them to her. All you need to do this is a knitting needle and some, like, I don't know, I guess this is fishing line. It's multi-purpose line, 250 yards for 50 cents. The secondhand craft store, probably the last place where you can get something for 50 cents. But I'm just gonna be here for a little while stringing these up. So thank you so much for joining me in today's video. If you liked it, make sure you give it a thumbs up and let me know what you think about me making more food content, if it's helpful as I learn to cook more at home. What is a tiny little bird up there tweeting? Sometimes I feel like when I have to record something and make a video out of it, I'm much more likely to stick to it or be serious about it. So I might be making more food videos this year just because I've been working on some body issues, and that's why I haven't talked about food a lot on this channel, which I think I'm gonna make a whole video about that topic soon. So make sure you're subscribed and you're having notifications on for that. And remember, until next time, you cannot do all the good that the world needs, but the world needs all the good that you can do. Bye, guys.